everybody, welcome to part 14 of our Clone Wars rewrite. We are currently rewriting the character of Ahsoka Tano, and in this video we'll be focusing on Season 2, Episode 6, Weapons Factory, where Ahsoka meets Barriss and the theme of saving Mini Plus One comes up again. Thanks for joining us!
Hey everyone, just a heads up, if you want to watch the full re-edited version of this analysis, you can find it over on Patreon, link in the description. Over there we delve deeper into the fundamental problems behind Anakin and Ahsoka's relationship, and discuss some more of the core issues with the episode's plot, such as Luminara's half-baked plan to take out the droid factory. And we take a closer look at Luminara's character, and explain why some of the criticism against her is actually unfounded. But anyway, for now, let's jump into it.
Okay, so we finally get to address the next episode in Lore Star's supposed how Filoni fixed Ahsoka video. So in Weapons Factory, he claims that she sees the benefit of respect and humility. So in Argument Against Ahsoka, we said the problem of Anakin undermining Ahsoka appears in this one episode, never before and never again, as a cheap shot to make the audience sympathize with Ahsoka. During their spat over his interruption, she whines that he doesn't trust her, a hypocritical complaint since she has already on numerous occasions proved she barely trusts him. When he tries to explain that isn't the case, she interrupts him with an angry, "No, I understand. I'm the Padawan. You're the master," she said with a very dark tone, showing clear resentment. And then Barriss humbly introduces herself. Anakin glances at Ahsoka with a look that says, "Well, are you going to do the same?" And Ahsoka's expression in response is pretty much, "Ah, hell nah." Again, showing her massive ego and unwillingness to humble herself in respect to anyone. Ahsoka haughtily tells Anakin that she'll be fine working a dangerous mission with Barriss since, as you well know, I can follow orders. The first thing she does when they get to the tunnels is tries to take the lead, even though she has no idea which way to go. Then she argues with Barriss about which direction to go when they are surrounded by a host of sleeping Geonosians. And when Barriss responds this is the fastest route, Ahsoka tries to undermine her, saying, "Maybe you're wrong," which is stupid. Ahsoka goes against her core personality, sacrificing herself so that the writers can trick the audience into thinking she's more likable than she actually is. When the trapped Padawans believe they may die buried in the rubble, Barriss says she takes comfort knowing their sacrifice saves countless lives. Ahsoka noticeably avoids agreeing with this sentiment. And at the end of the episode, Luminara praises Barriss for a job well done, but the writers have Barriss shift the praise to Ahsoka for being the one to send a signal to get them rescued. Another trick to keep focus and good feelings directed primarily at Ahsoka. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one. No gift is more precious than trust. That's why thus far they have shown us nothing but Ahsoka not trusting Anakin. And again, this quip is very obviously aimed at Anakin, because throughout the episode, it's Anakin that is supposedly not trusting Ahsoka because he's worried for her. He's not sure if she can handle it, right?
Wow.
And in his shoes, given the behavior we've seen from Ahsoka, then I would absolutely not trust her. But yeah, they're making Anakin look bad for not trusting Ahsoka, and this quip, yeah, just kind of reinforces that. No gift is more precious than trust. You know, Anakin, you should trust Ahsoka.
And in this episode, we're about to see Ahsoka not trusting Barriss, trying to undermine her, as well as just blatantly lying.
Yeah.
So she does not bestow trust, and she is not deserving of it either.
Because it's only after we neutralize the guns that we can push for the factory.
Yes, we can push for the factory. Now expect stiff resistance
And don't forget to top off your energy cells and ration packs. Once we leave, there'll be no resupply. Anything else, Ahsoka?
No. I think you've pretty much covered everything in my briefing.
Very well.
Okay, first of all, this is incredibly forced drama meant to victimize Ahsoka, and Anakin is being incredibly dense, which is completely out of character for him.
Yeah.
So I would literally just
Never seen this behavior from Anakin before.
And never
we
again.
never see.
What if we kind of had it as a bit of a back and forth, where Anakin says, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this, then he looks over at Ahsoka, she says the next bit, and then he continues, that kind of thing. So they deliver it together. They're working together.
I was gonna say, like, even if the writers weren't going to take our complete fixed version of Ahsoka into account, like, the way that Ahsoka is reacting in this moment just proves how immature she is. Oh, this is my briefing. How dare you interrupt me? It's like, okay, well, he's still your master, and just because you've been told to do a briefing doesn't mean that it's my own, my precious. You know, like, what is with this attitude? Yeah, he's being rude, interrupting her, but if she was mature, she would just kind of like bite her tongue and be like, oh, okay, and privately talk to him later if it was a huge deal for her. Not there in front of the clones trying to like interrupt him and then be like, yeah, I think you covered everything in my briefing. Okay, and like he's literally just interrupting her at the tail end of it. So again, it's just a complete overreaction on her part.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the best way to fix it would be just a back and forth. He says something, she says something, he says something. Anything else, Ahsoka? No, I think we've covered it all. Okay, good. Squad dismissed.
My briefings might go better if you didn't interrupt me every time I tried to...
I wasn't interrupting.
And again, they're trying to set this up as if this happens all the time. But this is the only time we ever see it. So this is clearly just trying to victimize Ahsoka and bring down Anakin because they want to show that, oh, he needs to trust Ahsoka in this episode. If you want to like have your character learn something, you shouldn't have to stab them in the knee and bring them to the ground and then be like, okay, now learn your lesson. Like if you have to do that, that's really crummy writing.
Yep.
Either find a different way to teach that lesson, or hey, maybe they've already learned that lesson and so they don't need you to beat them over the head with it after you've stabbed them in the knee.
No, it's okay. I understand. I'm the Padawan, you're the master.
She's being so passive-aggressive.
And again, her tone of voice, yeah, you're the master. Like, I should be the master, but unfortunately, I'm stuck being under you. It's like, there is absolutely no respect in her tone as she says, I'm the Padawan, you're the master. Again, they're trying to show bad behavior on Anakin's part, but it's like, okay, that doesn't make her behavior okay in response. Like, that's not how that works. Someone else's bad behavior does not make your bad behavior okay. And we kind of touched on that in the argument against Ahsoka. You can't blame Anakin for Ahsoka's behavior. That's not how life works.
You also talked about that in addressing Ahsoka as well. So we have brought it up quite a number of times.
So people, please stop blaming Anakin. He's not a perfect person. He's very flawed. For pity's sake, he turns evil. We all know it. But that doesn't make her bad behavior okay.
Let's just say that they have a penchant for playing loose with regulations and rules of command.
I notice how she says they have a penchant for playing loose with the roles of command.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised that she included Ahsoka in that statement. I thought she would just completely throw Anakin under the bus.
Yeah, here the problem is that Ahsoka has a problem with Anakin having authority. Because, yes, interrupting is rude, But if you have the higher authority, that kind of gives you the right to interrupt in, I don't know, an official briefing or something like that. Doesn't give you that right all the time. And maybe right is the wrong word. It gives you the privilege of interrupting in places where your authority has authority. That makes sense. Well, basically, like, you know, if someone is a Navy admiral and they go into the grocery store, their position as an admiral means nothing there. But if they are on their ship, or even on another ship, and there's, you know, other members of the Navy who are of lower rank than them, then them being an admiral holds weight. It holds meaning. And so if they see some guys playing cards on, you know, someone else's ship, he has every right and privilege, whatever you want to call it, to say, hey, get to work. He can interrupt their game and say whatever he wants within reason, of course. So that's what I mean when I say Anakin has the authority here. So him interrupting, it's like, yes, technically it's rude, but he has the authority to do so. And so the problem here isn't with Anakin playing fast and loose with the rules of command. It's Ahsoka having a problem with Anakin's authority that is causing this current tiff. And you could argue, well, Luminara doesn't know the context of the fight, but still, I can't recall a moment where Luminara's been present. Well, I don't know if Luminar has ever been present, but we have seen several times where Anakin bows to Ahsoka's wishes. So in that sense, you could say that yes, Anakin is responsible for some of the problems. But again, that's kind of because the writers throw him under the bus for Ahsoka's sake. I would have this moment between Anakin and Ahsoka if you wanted to have something like what Luminara says, just have a moment of banter between them. Because, yeah, we're trying to work closely to who Ahsoka is right now. So they just, you know, worked together on a briefing, and the squad is dismissed. They're just waiting for Luminara and Barriss, and they start bantering about something, and then Luminara's like, oh, this is so undignified, right? So she says something similar to her lines, because you can't imagine Luminara bantering with Barriss. And I don't think Luminara would be able to imagine that either. So I think a moment of banter would be a good substitute for this ridiculous argument that is going on.
Personally, I don't know if I would keep Luminara's statement there. But if we want to have Anakin and Ahsoka bantering, they could be bantering in regards to Luminara and Barriss's arrival. So Ahsoka's like, oh, looks like they arrived. Anakin's like, hey, mind your manners or something like that. And she starts bantering with him over that.
Yeah, you could do that. Ultimately, like, I guess to me it doesn't matter what you choose to banter about, but that would be a good contextual topic for the banter.
We do have a factory to destroy.
Yeah, we could just go straight to that line. Where instead of Luminara being like, oh, they have a penchant for playing loose with rules and regulation, you just see them come up and she's like, if you're finished with your discussion, we have a battle to get to.
Padawan learner, Barriss Offie, at your service. Glad to meet you. I'm Ahsoka.
I think it would be out of character for our fixed version of Ahsoka to return the bow and the at your service. But I wouldn't have the expression exchange between her and Anakin because, like we said, it comes off very much like Anakin's like, are you going to do the same? Or like, almost like he's mocking Barriss. Like, it's just really inappropriate in my opinion.
Plus, Luminara would see that expression exchange.
Yeah, which would be insulting. Look at this. He's like, are you serious? And she's like, oh, yeah.
Glad to meet you.
I got the impression that Anakin was kind of impressed by the gesture. I couldn't tell if he was looking at Barriss or Ahsoka, but
I think he looks from Barriss to Ahsoka and then raises his eyebrow. And so, yeah, maybe it's a look of like, a well-behaved, respectful Padawan. Don't see one of those every day. Either which way, yeah, I do not like the exchange of expressions because there's several different ways you could read them, and personally, I don't really think any of them are very polite. Right? At the most, you could read Anakin's expression as, oh, I'm impressed. But I don't see Ahsoka's return expression as anything respectful.
I would have it focus on Ahsoka's reaction. So Barriss curtsies and Ahsoka's like, whoa, oh, okay, this is new. So she kind of awkwardly tries to replicate it, but yeah, it's awkward. She's not used to this. So while they're kind of at eye level, she extends her hand. She's like, I'm Ahsoka.
Yeah, that could work. I will do what you're doing because that's obviously, what you consider to be polite, and I'm trying to be polite. Right? We do stuff like that all the time.
But I have instructed Barriss to memorize the labyrinth, all 200 junctions, while the destruction of the factory falls to the Padawans.
Now hold on, who decided that? Walking into that factory could be suicide.
Master, I can do this. I've had riskier assignments.
What were her riskier assignments?
The only thing I can think of is her mission in Storm over Ryloth.
Which she completely and utterly screwed up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good reason for him to trust her.
So, I actually kind of like the fact that Anakin is showing, because it comes off to me not so much as, oh, you can't pull this off, but hey, I'm concerned about you. This is a suicide mission.
Mm-hmm.
So I would keep his line. I would get rid of Ahsoka's stupid hoity-toity reaction and have her be more reassuring, like, hey, relax. I can do this. I'll be with Barriss. We've got each other's backs. Right, Barriss? Barriss like, right.
Barriss is like, no.
You aren't prepared for this mission.
Not to worry. My Padawan is reliable.
See? Dependable Barriss will get us through.
That sounds like such a condescending thing to say. Right in front of Barriss. Like, her behavior is disgustingly disrespectful. If someone said, oh yeah, Emmy is really fun to be around, and then someone's like, oh yeah, I'll go hang out with fun Emmy, I'd be like, wow, okay, I don't want to hang out with you because you sound like you're mocking me. I can't think of a single situation in which somebody with that tone of voice, even if it's a complimentary label on you, like, I'm not a Care Bear, don't talk about me that way. It's just completely awful.
As you well know, I can follow orders.
That is such BS!
Storm over Ryloth, holocron heist, absolute, complete disregard for following orders. As you well know, I can follow orders. And I don't even understand this line here. Is she trying to say that Anakin can't follow orders? Because what orders thus far in this episode, or even recently, like, yeah, no, it must be. It must, because everyone always throws Anakin under the bus. Oh yeah, Anakin doesn't follow orders. Oh yeah, Anakin disobeys all the time. In the first episodes you see them in, he's told to go with his fleet, and instead he goes and looks for Plo Koon. During the Goldie arc, Obi-Wan tells him to just blow up the listening post, and instead he goes for a rescue mission for R2.
If you think about it, what those two moments have in common is it was a selfless act on Anakin's part. It was because he cared about Plo Koon and he cared about R2 that he disobeyed orders.
Yep. And we've mentioned several times that the way Anakin disobeys and the reason he disobeys is extremely different than when Ahsoka disobeys.
Like, literally just think about the Citadel arc. When she goes against orders and comes with them anyway. It's completely selfish because it's all about like, I'm gonna show you that I am so awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in Storm over Ryloth and Holocron Heist, she's disobeying because she's like, oh, I got this. Yeah, I'm gonna look good when this is all over. And then she looks terrible when it's all over. And then the writers are like, let's just forget that ever happened. So, yeah, her line here, oh, well, I can follow orders, is again throwing Anakin under the bus, showing complete disrespect to her master. And it's a blatant lie. Absolutely disgusting. And we're only 5 minutes into this episode. Just disrespect on top of disrespect and lying and manipulation and just, oh my goodness. So, yeah, I agree with you that Anakin can still show concern. And again, yeah, like the fact that the writers are trying to frame Anakin's concern for Ahsoka as distrust is just so cruel and really, again, manipulative. If you've got people, kids, watching this show, identifying with Ahsoka, and their parents say, no, I don't want you to do that thing because it's dangerous, then they're presented with this idea that, oh no, that doesn't mean that your parents care about you. That means that they don't trust you. That's really bad message. Really, really bad message. If they wanted to make an episode of Anakin not trusting Ahsoka, that should have been near the beginning when they're just getting to know each other. It doesn't make sense to have that episode in the middle of season 2. So, yeah, focus on Anakin's concern being because Ahsoka's not prepared. And then Luminara's like, you know, don't worry. Barriss is very reliable. She knows what she's doing. You know, she'll be able to guide Ahsoka. And then I would have it that, because Ahsoka doesn't know Barriss very well at this point, we're kind of given the impression that this is the first time they've ever met. So would we have it that Ahsoka's a little bit nervous too? Or does she kind of look at Barriss and see how confident and composed she is and be like, oh, okay, you know, I'm going to trust that this person's composure is a result of they are certain that they know what they're doing.
I would go with the latter.
So then she kind of reassures Anakin. And I would have it as like a quiet aside to him instead of what she does here where she's like loudly like, oh, you know, dependable Barriss is going to get us through. No, she kind of like quietly to Anakin is like, hey, Barriss seems really dependable. You know, I've worked with Luminara before and she's strict, but she gets the job done. She's very smart. So I'm sure if she trusts Barriss, that we can trust Barriss too. So if you really wanted to have like a trust thing, it should be Anakin trusting Luminara and Barriss rather than Anakin learning to trust Ahsoka. If you really, really wanted that whole theme of trust, learning to trust in there. And so then Ahsoka's like, hey, I trust them. We can do this. We're going to get this done. And if Anakin still kind of is hesitant, you could have Ahsoka be like, remember what's at stake here, or something like that. I would be careful not to make it too preachy. Like, you wouldn't want her to be like, remember, Anakin, why we are here. Like, oh, yes, Ahsoka, you're absolutely right. Like, I would not frame it in that way. But I'd have no problem with having, like, a more humble kind of like, hey, this is a very important mission. And he's like, I know, but I'm really worried for you. And she's like, don't worry about me. We got this.
Let's get going. After you, Barriss.
I would
Notice how Ahsoka kind of like is the one leading the charge again, even though
she just said after you.
Well, no, she's currently kind of like behind Barriss, but like she's like, let's go, and then she goes as if to lead, and then oh, after you, Barriss. And it's again just the fact that she's the first one to say something, to initiate movement, rather than the masters being like, off you go, or Barriss saying, yes, let's go.
Yeah, I would have Luminara say, okay, get going.
Not like that, because I don't see Illuminar saying that, but yeah.
Nice work. Well, here goes nothing. I should go in first. I know the way. Be my guest.
Okay, so first of all, she says, nice work. Okay, Barriss literally just like cut a square in a wall. Did you think that she wasn't capable of doing that? That's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
So condescending. And yeah, she tries to take the lead again.
I mean, I would say that her tone wasn't condescending, but you're absolutely right. Would we maybe just like have them cut the hole together? Or, you know, obviously Barriss knows where the right spot to cut is. Like she was feeling the wall, I guess, kind of like sensing or something. So I guess it makes sense there for Ahsoka to kind of hang back and keep looking around in case of something. And then I would just have it that Barriss cuts the hole, pulls it out, and then just says, let's go. And they go in.
I love how they're basically standing out in the open in the next shot.
They're sleeping. We have to find another way. We don't have time. This direction is the fastest. Maybe you're wrong. Trust me.
Okay, that whole thing is stupid. Again, they're surrounded by Geonosians. This is not the time to be arguing and potentially waking them up. And then this whole stupid, maybe you're wrong. Maybe this isn't the fastest way. Maybe we don't need to take the fastest way. Maybe, and it's like, please shut up. And again, it's just Ahsoka dumping on the people around her. This whole episode is supposed to be about trust. Please tell me how this is her showing trust to Barriss.
It's not.
You memorized 200 junctions, but maybe you're wrong. I mean, I would know better because... Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't know better. I literally have no idea where I am right now. If you ditched me, I'd be dead. But maybe you're wrong. And it's like the whole thing is she's like, maybe we should take a different way. Which means that Barriss would have to use her memorization of the 200 junctions to guide them anyways. And if you trust that she'd be able to do that, why don't you trust that she's able to say confidently, this is the fastest way?
Not to mention, this is totally out of character for Ahsoka. Why is she so timid all of a sudden? Oh, they're asleep, but we can't go this way. It's too scary.
Yeah, no, they basically like crawl into the sleeping quarters. They're surrounded, and then she's like, maybe we should go another way. It's like, okay, maybe you should have said that before you got this far. At this point, just keep going.
Yeah, I would just have Barriss comment that they're sleeping, and then Ahsoka doesn't say anything, and they just keep going.
Either that, or you could just have Barriss put a finger to her lips, and Ahsoka looks at one of the Geonosians, and then the view shows that it is sleeping, and then she just kind of looks back at Barriss with her, like, her eyes wide, but she just kind of nods, and they keep going.
And Ahsoka's in the lead again! Why?
Yes! So that they could have this stupid moment where Barriss is stuck.
I would switch it so that Ahsoka's the one who gets stuck and Barriss helps her out.
Either way, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, if it's whoever's in the rear gets the hand on their head, then it would make more sense for it to be Ahsoka because she should be in the rear. And she kind of was, and then all of a sudden she's in the front. Like, there's literally, like, no continuity.
Yeah, the writers don't believe in continuity when it comes to Ahsoka, or any of this show for that matter.
Dead end. If we make a wrong turn, we may never find our way out. You do remember the way, don't you?
Oh my goodness! She takes every single freaking opportunity to undermine Barriss. She knows the risk of not remembering the way. You do not need to remind her.
Yeah, and again, she's like this with everyone. It's not just Barriss. But yeah, she's like putting pressure on her and just being not helpful in any way, shape, or form. And it's like, I think the audience knows too what is at stake here if you get lost. So really her entire spiel here is completely unnecessary. It is a good moment of like building some tension, like having Barriss forget and the audience goes like, oh crap, right? So then having this pause here, I like that, but it just seems kind of awkward to have Ahsoka just stand there and say nothing. So what would we have her say instead?
To show that she's supportive, when Barriss is like, I don't remember this, Ahsoka, you can see in her face that she's kind of like, oh crap, but then she kind of gets herself to relax and then she's like, it's okay, just take a minute.
I think that's a good fix. But you could also do it that she kind of like tries to prod Barriss's memory, being like maybe suggest, well, let's go back to the last junction and see if you remember something or whatever, right? But Barriss could be like, no, I know this is the right way to go. And then she's like, okay, just take a minute. Just think and I'll be quiet kind of thing. That's good. I like that. They just immediately get to work.
See your stupid tank. Take this.
Fool. The super tank is impervious to all weapons.
Can I just say that Ahsoka was standing in front of Barriss there, yet she stopped swinging her lightsaber, so she should have been shot.
Yeah.
I would have her move behind Barriss, say to Barriss, cover me, then she puts away her lightsaber and throws the bomb.
Yep. That makes way more sense. And it also, allows Barriss to have some screen space. Again, this is a moment where Ahsoka blocks out the other characters so that the viewer can completely focus on her being cool. This also doesn't make sense. She saw them starting to take off the bombs in the last segment, but she was like, see if your tank can take this. And now all of a sudden she's like, oh no, the bombs. So it's like, I feel like that should be flipped. Or at the very least, she says, oh, shoot the bombs. And Barriss maybe says, we can't do anything. We have to take care of this tank. And so then Ahsoka, falls back, cover me, throws some bombs at the tank. And then the guy laughs at her and then gets exploded. And then you go to this segment and Ahsoka's like, we don't have time to deal with the tank, or, maybe again, she's like, keep covering me, something like that. But then she goes after the guys taking off the bombs. There's a couple different ways you could handle it. You could give some stuff to, maybe have Barriss be the one to like try and save the bombs. I feel like it's more in character for Ahsoka though. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that in the last segment, she sees it happening, doesn't say anything, and then in this segment, it's like, oh no!
Stupid green color! Ah!
What the?
I don't even know what she was trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, because she grabbed onto them, and she could have let go, but instead she lets them ram her into the reactor. It's very, very stupid. And it's like, okay, if you were going to jump up, keep your lightsaber out, jump up and grab one, cut him in half, and then, maybe, I don't know, throw something at the other one or something, or like they could each grab one and slice them in half, or I don't know. It's like, it makes zero sense. And it's moments like these where people are like, oh yeah, see, Ahsoka gets hurt, she messes up, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but this is just utterly stupid. This isn't a genuine moment of character failure. This is just stupid.
Or alternatively, we could have one of the Geonosians grab her, and then just ram her against the wall, the reactor.
Yeah. If you want the same effect, that's the better way to do it. I guess it's kind of weird that she's not knocked out until her like little roll-off landing at the end, rather than when she first hits her head.
Yeah, I would change that. She's knocked out the minute she hits her head.
Yeah, and whether you have that be the first thunk when they, hit her against the reactor, or the second thunk when she like hits the lower part of it. But yeah, it's just kind of dumb that she like hits the reactor and then thunks down to the bottom half of the reactor, and then oh no, and then rolls off gently onto the floor, and then now I'm knocked out.
Oh, wow.
The bugs took the bombs. What are we gonna do now?
Completely unfazed, even though she was just knocked out for like a full minute.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have her be knocked out, I would then be like, okay, well, Barriss is gonna have to help her into the tank. So if you want efficiency and this kind of movement and clear-headed thinking, then I'd say Ahsoka hits the bottom, but you can see she's kind of protected her head, or, maybe she used the Force to slow her fall or something. So maybe she's a little rattled, moving a little slower for a second, which is why Barriss is like, oh shoot, gotta protect her. And then she takes on the tank. But Ahsoka, is getting up as Barriss goes and like cuts the hole in the tank and jumps in, right? She doesn't like wake up just as Barriss has finished commandeering the tank and then it's like, oh, okay, boom, done. I'm sorry, that's not how head injuries work.
Yeah.
So you'd have to have it that she doesn't have a head injury if you want her to be able to act like this after Barriss has captured the tank. At the most, it would be a bump, not a concussion that knocked her out for a minute.
This tank could destroy the power generator, and probably us along with it.
I guess that's our only choice.
I'm sorry, Master. We can't make it out.
Can't make it out. Ahsoka, wait!
Fire.
See, that's the weird thing, is that like Ahsoka does all the talking. And the other thing I noticed is the bombs were set to go off. So those other Geonosians like carried them away, but then what did they do with them? They would have gone off, and then Anakin would have gotten a, like, oh, the bombs went off, and okay, but nothing happened.
So would we give Barriss a line then? Because it seems very focused on Ahsoka again. It's like, Barriss doesn't matter, just Ahsoka. It's so sad that Ahsoka's died. Oh!
Like, it kind of makes sense for Barriss to be like, we didn't plan for this. What do we do now? And then it's also in Ahsoka's character with having learned from Anakin in our fixed version, she kind of knows how to improvise. And so then, she suggests, okay, we use the tank. And then I would give the line to Barriss, the one about like, and we wouldn't be able to get out. And Ahsoka kind of nods. And then Barriss is like, but that's what we have to do. And Ahsoka nods again. And then she just pushes the button on the tank instead of saying fire. It's like, okay, just push the button. You don't have to say something. Because it's like she's commanding somebody else, but she's the one pushing the button. It's so weird.
I didn't even think of that, honestly. But alternatively, we could have Ahsoka be like, we ran into a problem, we can't use the bombs. And then she kind of tries to lead into, we can't make it out, so she says, I'm sorry, Master, but then she kind of hesitates, and Barriss sees that, so she presses her own intercom, and she's like, we can't make it out.
Because, again, this goes back into what we've kind of talked about a few times now, where Ahsoka has to kind of face her own mortality. And that doesn't mean that it gets easier as you go along, so if it was made clear somehow that that was the reason for her faltering, but Barriss, due to her differing personality and having Luminara for a master and such like that she's, because like, it's not that, you know, oh, because Barriss is better able to face it, that she's somehow better than Ahsoka. Like, that's absolutely not what I'm trying to get at. It's that we have a job to do, and if we have to give our lives to do this job, then I'm ready to do that, right? Whereas Ahsoka's not quite ready to do that yet, because we're kind of trying to work in this theme of like, this is very difficult for her, because being a child soldier sucks. War sucks.
War. What is it good for? Absolutely
nothing.
But yeah, it's the show makes it clear that a huge part of like, well, really her defining trait is that Barriss is completely selfless. But yeah, Barriss even says it later where she's like, it doesn't matter what happens to us because we've saved countless lives. So she takes comfort in that.
Yeah, have Ahsoka kind of hesitate after she says, I'm sorry, Master, and Anakin's kind of like, you know, what's going on? And Barriss, clicks on her, you know, we're not going to make it out. And then she nods at Ahsoka, and Ahsoka nods back and pushes the button. And meanwhile, Anakin's like yelling into his intercom.
How deep do you think we're buried? It's probably best not to think about it. Hand me that power cell, would you?
Whatever you're doing, I hope it works, because I'd sure rather have died fighting up there than starve to death down here.
Don't worry. We'll run out of air long before we starve. It's a company.
Why is she so flippant? Don't worry, we'll run out of air long before we starve.
And again, this is very similar to what happens in Friend in Need, when the other girl expresses distress, and Ahsoka's response is flippant. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're definitely the kind of person I can see helping people in need, reassuring friends. That just oozes out of your personality.
And it also just completely makes no sense in light of the previous scene where she was all like, I'm sorry, Master. We can't make it out. This is so sad.
I think I would actually start this scene with one of them commenting, we're still alive? Like, I would have it that it's kind of like they expected to be crushed. But because this tank is so strong, they weren't crushed. And so, but they're surprised by that. And then Barriss, maybe comments like, oh, I would have rather had a quick death than a slow death, whether she says starvation or suffocation. And then Ahsoka's like, I have an idea. Pass me that power core, please. And then she gets to work trying to contact Anakin, because it was kind of this like, oh, we're saying goodbye. And then they're just like, oh yeah, we're alive. Okay, let's call Anakin. It's like, okay. So that was just you being like, oh, let's make the audience feel like, oh no, Ahsoka's gonna die. It's like, no, show that the characters are surprised that they're still alive.
Skywalker has taught me a trick or two. I think I can get this communicator working.
And that's not a bad moment there, because you would expect that she's picked up a trick or two from Anakin. And again, it seems like in other episodes, they would have her like do the thing as if it was her own idea that she taught herself, and then later be like, oh yeah, Anakin taught me that. Thanks, Master. Like, this is a better way to do that. If you really want to show that this is something she's learned from Anakin, have her express that as she's doing it, rather than at the end of the episode when nobody's talking about anything. So I really do like that they actually give credit to Anakin in a moment where it's like, oh, that's cool. She learned that from Anakin.
Whatever you're doing, I hope it works, because I'd sure rather have died fighting up there than starve to death down here.
Don't worry. We'll run out of air long before we starve.
That's a comforting thought. Thanks.
Master Skywalker has taught me a trick or two. I think I can get this communicator working.
Other than that one line, like that entire exchange just comes off really weird. Because like, yeah, Ahsoka's completely relaxed and, oh, yep, let's do this thing. And Barriss is like, oh, I wish we had died somewhere else. And just like, thank you for reassuring me that we're gonna suffocate instead of starve. It's just really weird.
Yeah, no kidding.
If my Padawan has perished, I will mourn her, but I will celebrate her as well through her memory.
Well, I still plan on celebrating this victory with my Padawan. In person.
This isn't coming off as determined, this is coming off as like dark.
Yeah!
But if you just fixed that, I feel like that exchange is really, really good. I love the way Luminara is. And it's totally in character for Anakin to be the way he is. Again, these opposing views and personalities, and like, it's just good.
What happens to us now doesn't matter. By destroying this factory, we've saved countless lives elsewhere. Well, I'm about to save 2 more.
Very interesting pause there, Ahsoka.
Yeah, pause, look down into the thing like, oh, I'm just not going to respond to that. And it's weird again, because like in the last segment, you had Barriss being all like, oh, I wish we had died up there instead of starving to death down here. Like, oh, dying is so sucky. And now all of a sudden she's like, you know, I'm okay with dying because we've saved so many people. It's like, what? Weren't you just like, what? I feel like if in the last scene, because like I said, you know, she makes the comment about, oh, I would rather a quick death than a slow death in regards to think, you know, because they've just expressed, oh, I thought we were going to die by being crushed, right? Which would have been quick. But now we're surprised to find ourselves still alive. And she's like, oh, I would have preferred a quick death over a slow death. And then Ahsoka says, you know, maybe we don't have to die at all. Pass me the, you know, power cell. And, oh, I learned this trick from Anakin. And then, yeah, of course, I did like that line where Barriss is like, you know, whatever you're doing, I hope it works. And I almost, yeah, no, like, you could still have her lines here, but like maybe change them up a bit. Maybe have it Ahsoka express, I'm not sure this will work, so don't get your hopes up. And then have Barriss comment like, you know, well, at least we know that if we've died because of this, that we've saved countless lives through our sacrifice. And I would have Ahsoka kind of pause and look at her and be like, thank you. That's comforting. And then, yeah, maybe have her say, let's hope I can save 2 more. Though it's kind of weird that she's like, I can save, you know, 2 more people. You know, it's like, so maybe just have her say, you know, let's hope that this works or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, really the only problem with that scene is that weird pause.
Mm-hmm.
Like, other than that, I appreciate both their lines. And it kind of ties back into what Ayla and Ahsoka talked about in Defenders of Peace, or whichever it was. Or Jedi Crash, Defenders of Peace, that arc. Because we talked about it there that, what was Ayla's line? Don't sacrifice 1,000 or 100, or I forget the number, to save 1. And you brought up that it doesn't always have to be a case of 100 versus 1, it can be 100 plus 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, this scene kind of ties into that. Barriss is like, we saved all these lives, but Ahsoka's like, well, we can save 2 more.
I guess my problem with Ahsoka's line was more in the fact that she's like, well, I'm going to save us, right? Like, I'm the hero, look at me.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, still have her line, but maybe rephrase it so that it's not quite, you know, maybe, you know, let's hope we can save 2 more or something like that, right? Because Barriss did hand her the power cell, so she helped.
There you go. Teamwork!
And again, I think part of the problem with Ahsoka's line is that it kind of almost sounds like, you know, I've saved countless lives by doing what I did, and now I'm going to save 2 more. But it was the 2 of them that saved those countless lives, and Yes, however, small Barriss's contribution here is she's still kind of helping, holding the light, handing her things, stuff like that. So it's like, let's hope we can save 2 more. I really think that would just fix the problem.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's not that I gave up, Skywalker, but unlike you, when the time comes, I am prepared to let my student go. Can you say the same?
And this is very interesting because they've set this whole episode up as like, oh, Anakin has to learn to trust Ahsoka. I feel like the lesson that you walk away with from this episode is letting go. Luminara was absolutely right, you know, in what she says to Anakin there, like, are you prepared to do the same? Like, the time is going to come. A, we're in the middle of a war, and B, eventually she's going to grow up and be sent on her own things. She's not going to be your little Padawan anymore.
I knew you'd come looking for me.
I never doubted you for a second.
Padawan, you did well.
Thank you, Master. But if it weren't for Ahsoka, we'd still be down there.
Hang on. Does that exchange between Anakin and Ahsoka even make sense? Because no, it doesn't. Because she's like, I knew you'd come looking for me, and he's like, I never doubted you for a second. Like, what? What are you even talking about?
This whole episode has been like, oh look, Anakin doesn't trust Ahsoka. Look, he doesn't trust her. See, he doubts her. Now, I never doubted you for a second. Ah.
What would we have Anakin say in response, though? Or would we just maybe, like, have him smile?
I would have him maybe say, I won't give up on you that easily, or something like that.
Your master never lost faith in you.
Never lost faith in her over what? What are they even talking about?
Yeah, see, because that's the weird thing. It's like, Anakin did not think, oh, Ahsoka's going to, you know, be able to contact me somehow. I just gotta wait for her to contact me, right? Like, he never says anything along those lines of like, oh, Ahsoka's gonna tell us where she is, and we'll go get her. He's like, no, we gotta search for her. We gotta, you know, dig up the rubble. We've gotta this, we've gotta that. So it's just really weird. In our fixed version, would we have Barriss's line? I don't think so, because again, it's kind of like giving all of the credit to Ahsoka. And it's like, okay, Barriss, you did stuff too, but, you know, maybe it's in character for Barriss to kind of shrug off her contribution, at least, you know, in terms of sending out a signal and getting rescued.
What we could do is kind of flip it. So we first see Luminara tell Barriss, you did a good job, and then we have Anakin and Ahsoka's interaction, and it ends on that.
I would maybe have it that, like, Luminara says, you did well, and Barriss is like, thank you, Master, and then, you know, maybe Luminara says, I'm glad that you made it out safe, and then maybe just have Barriss kind of look at Ahsoka. And then, yeah, we go to Anakin and Ahsoka saying their lines. And then Ahsoka looks back at Barriss and smiles back at her.
Do we want to say any closing notes on what Lore Star had to say about this episode?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, so his argument was that in this episode, Ahsoka sees the benefit of respect and humility. And I don't see any humility in the end of the episode because, yeah, she's all like, oh yeah, I've saved countless people and now I'm gonna save 2 more. Like, they have Barriss show humility. Barriss is like, you know, she gets told, well done, and she's like, well, no, it was this person over here. Like, she's being humble. And Ahsoka's just like, yeah, keep the praise on me. And everyone's like, oh, I never lost faith in you. Oh, I knew you could do it. And it's like, okay, where is her showing humility? Yeah, she's maybe not like glorying in it, but she's not given an opportunity to show respect or humility because everyone's just heaping praise at her. At the beginning of the episode, there's definitely no respect or humility. Then she meets Barriss, and throughout the episode, she's undermining Barriss, she's doubting Barriss, she's trying to take the lead away from Barriss. Like, there's literally no moment where Ahsoka shows respect or humility. Like, they have her whole like self-sacrificial bit, but that's not respect or humility. And he's arguing that she's seeing the benefit of respect and humility, but then you would have to establish that her behavior hereafter changes because she starts to act more respectful and humble. But we know that that does not happen. His entire argument is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, she could see the benefit of respect and humility. That doesn't make her a good character if she doesn't do anything about it. In fact, that makes her the opposite. That makes her a terrible character. How is this a fix?
It's not!
It's not.
So that was Season 2, Episode 6, Weapons Factory, where we had Ahsoka meet Barriss, and we reintroduced the theme of saving many plus one. Thank you for joining us, and if you enjoyed, be sure to give us a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for future content, and share this video with a friend. And if you're looking for more ways to show your support, consider becoming a patron. Next up, we'll be doing Season 2, Episode 8, so be sure to join us for that.